Welcome to Open Range. I'm your host, Gary Eminent. Today we're going to have a very interesting show. We're going to talk about pirate money. And you're thinking, pirate money? What's pirate money? Well, I guess that could be gold and silver. We're not going to talk about jewels and ships, but we're going to talk about mostly gold and silver and the U.S. economy and the way the feds print money. We got a special guest that's zooming in from us who's a pretty renowned gentleman that we're going to talk about with him a little later with Mike Carter. We also have in studio with me Sue Ann Olson, Republican District 8, who serves in the state legislature. So Sue Ann, welcome to Open Range.
Well, thank you, Gary.
So Sue Ann, to get started a little bit, to tell our viewers a little bit about who's Sue Ann Olson before we dig into gold and silver.
Well, I'm District 8 representative since the 2023 session. The gold and silver thing was extremely interesting to me from the start, and it was a couple of years ago now that I met the pirate money guys, and everything they said made so much sense. So we actually had a bill on the House side in the 2025 session that passed like 2-1 on the House side, but failed on the Senate side by about 5 votes. So we're going to be back at it again in the 27th session, but it's a fascinating topic, and just something that people really need to understand the current perils that we really are facing, and consider gold and silver as a way of a store of value.
So we're going to bring in Mike Carter, who's one of the co-founders of the National Security Investment Institute. So Mike, welcome to Open Range. Before we get started and we get into the subject, I'd like to do about 4 shows on this, but we're going to focus on it for the next hour. But tell our viewers a little bit about who you are.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me on today. Thank you for the work North Dakotans are doing as it relates to food. We spend a lot of time on how we can protect America's national security and economic infrastructure at the NSIC Institute. And we know that food security is national security, and oil energy security is also national security. And making sure we have freedom with our money is another important topic. As we look at these big ideas and how do we protect the economic liberty, how do we protect our national security, how do we protect the economic infrastructure across America, one of the things that we've been talking about and warning about since 2009 or 10 was what's going on with our money, and the fact that America is being attacked. We're being attacked with an economic war. We tend to believe it's a spiritual war disguised as an economic war. But Kevin Freeman, the host of a show that we have on Blaze TV, Economic War Room, he's co-founder with me at the NSIC Institute. Strong national security background, debriefed all the 3-letter agencies and warned about the China threat, warned about all the things that are going on economically in the war against America. And unfortunately, our politicians didn't take that to heart. And so we're having to deal with a lot of the repercussions of that today, with record debt, with a declining dollar, with other nations attacking our currency. And so we've created a STAT. It's our solution to action tank. We look for real world solutions to some of these economic issues. And unlike groups that just write white papers and think about it and talk about it, we say, okay, let's come up with the idea, and then let's figure out how to change, how to get that done legislatively, and then how do we implement it. And I'm excited to share today some of the things that are happening across the country. This is a movement. It's bigger than us. But exciting to see what's happening and where it's going. And I believe North Dakota is going to be one of the states next on the list to make gold and silver legal tender. And as we get into today, you're going to find that's not a crazy idea. You can spend gold and silver anywhere that that accepts MasterCard. And this is an idea that's frictionless, but I think a way to give economic justice to all Americans with fair weights and measures.
So Mike, one of the things that I wanted to focus on, I've had guests on, we talked about gold, and when North Dakota legislature was looking at it, we were trying to address how we can get people to more informed, because people my age and other, we understand when we're on the gold standard, but sometimes the younger people, they live everything in a digital world. And they just, frankly, I think yesterday in my show I talked about how often I don't carry cash with me. I have no money on me most of the time. And if I lost my wallet, I'm in trouble, And so we've moved to this digital world of the currency, but you're talking about going back before paper money in a sense. Let's go back to gold and silver. You called it pirates' money. Talk to us a little bit about that.
Yeah, well, let's go back to the future, I guess, a little bit here. Our founders hated fiat currency. You look at Thomas Jefferson, George Washington. They all said paper currency is not good. And if you look at what's typically rise to the economic collapse of nations is when they start to devalue their currency. And unfortunately, we're seeing that happen today in America here, where since we got off that gold standard, the dollar's lost 90% of its value. And that hurts hardworking Americans, hardworking North Dakotans, because it seems like you're working harder and harder for less and less out there. And those that have, assets and so forth, inflation can kind of help them. But for those that are living paycheck to paycheck and trying to figure out how do I keep up with what's going on, there's got to be a better way. And we think that's pirate money. We thought we'd have fun with this because we want this to be a fun topic. We want this to be an engaging topic, one that resonates with both Republicans and Democrats. And we've seen bipartisan support in multiple states. In Florida and Arkansas, it was unanimous. Louisiana, unanimous. Republicans and Democrats getting behind this idea. And when you see that happen, that doesn't happen often today, but that makes it exciting. And so when we started our country, we didn't have printing machines. We didn't necessarily trust the Brits with the pound. And so what we traded with was Spanish coins, gold doubloons and pieces of 8 was gold and silver. And that's what our founders wanted us to have. It's amazing that today we have it in the Constitution that states can make gold and silver legal tender. And that's the only 2 things they can make legal tender. And we have a technology today that makes it feasible to be able to spend gold and silver just like we spend any other type of money. It's another way to pay.
So one of the things I think we've talked about, and Sue Ann, we have a slide that talks about these 5 undeniable truths. And I'd like to have both of you speak to that in the context of what that really represents. So Sue Ann, as you look at these undeniable truths, and you got engaged in this for a variety of reasons. Talk to us a little bit about your passion for what we're seeing on the screen here related to these truths.
Well, and we'll briefly go through them and then probably talk about them a little bit more in depth. But when we read them, you're like, yeah, these are absolutely true. Our debt path is unsustainable. I don't think anybody would disagree that we are off the charts, racking up national debt. The fact that other nations are targeting or attacking our currency is of real concern. Inflation creates a wealth gap that really hurts the poor much more than the wealthy. And if we have enough inflation, that leads to an entire destabilization of the economy. And that is where we would just have total chaos. And we also are realizing that governments are intending to weaponize currency with the central bank digital currency. That's a digital currency where governments could control how you spend it. It's not a matter of do you have any digital currency, but they would limit you perhaps in what you could spend that currency on. And then also just recognizing that money is changing in major ways. We now have PayPal. What are some of the others? Venmo, Tap to Pay, all of these things we didn't have, probably just 10 years ago even. So money has changed anyway. So as we go through these, this really just leads us to that discussion on and bringing us back to gold and silver.
So when we look at the national debt that's going on and we see inflation that's occurring, right? Can you talk to us a little bit about, from your perspective, of the status of where we're at? I mean, obviously this chart is just a snapshot of time, which is even worse than this picture. So why don't you give us some thoughts on that, please?
Yeah, well, again, I want to give credit to my business colleague, Kevin Freeman, on this book, Pirate Money. And when he started writing this 2 years ago, and this is a great, easy to read book. It gets into the history of money, constitutional precedents, and the new technology today, and how we can actually go back to, people can go back to their own personal gold standard out there. We had $32 trillion in debt 2 years ago. If you look at that, if you put that chart back up, or maybe it's up there now, today we're at $38 trillion in debt. We're literally, up every 71 days now. I think it increases by $1 trillion. So what does that mean per taxpayer debt? Up for each individual now, up $76,000 in 2 years. So that's the bill you and I and Representative Olson, we owe another $76,000 in debt because of this out of control spending. It's not sustainable. We're seeing, probably the way that this is going to go is the government's going to try and inflate their way out of this. President Trump, I respect his policies and what he's doing, but when you got that much debt, we're at mission critical right now. And there's got to be a solution that says, what do we do to manage that? So that probably means, and I've heard them talk about maybe weakening the dollar because that's good for exports. Well, if the dollar gets weaker, if we have to print more money, if we have to inflate our way out of this debt, what does that do to the hardworking Americans that are farthest away from where the money printing is happening? That means that every time they start printing more money, that money you got saved up, that you worked so hard for as a store of value, no longer is worth what it used to be. And that's where we look at dollar being worth 90% than it was in the 1970s. It doesn't have to be this way. There is another solution to that. Our founders gave it to us, and that's what's exciting about the legislation that Representative Olson is working.
Mike, we got just about a minute before the break, but the whole idea of the weaponization of currencies, we see BRICS and what's happening with the dollar internationally. Just give our viewers a quick snapshot from the implications of that.
Targeting our money, they don't trust the debt that we have out there. And so we're seeing the BRIC nations say we're going to develop our own currency. I know we're coming from a break, so we might have to revisit this a little bit afterwards, but our enemies smell blood in the water, and they're looking to say, okay, we don't trust the dollar anymore. What can we do differently? And we'll visit that on the other side of this break.
That sounds great. So we've been talking to Mike Carter and Sue Ann Olson. And we're going to dig in on using the currency of gold and silver actually as a way to buy things. So I'm your host, Gary. I'm going to stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Stop out to our facility, Highway 22 South. Let us build a truck for you.
Hello and welcome to the MHA Interpretive Center. It's the perfect stop along the Lewis and Clark Trail and the cultural hub of the Mandan, Hiraadza, and Arikara Nation. Nestled along the shores of Lake Sagaguia in Newtown, North Dakota, 1 mile west of the Four Bears Casino. You can enjoy amphitheater performances, art exhibitions, and educational workshops utilizing our Living Cultural Center. Enjoy some coffee, browse our gift shop, and learn about the original people of this land. Learn more at mhanation.com/interpretive center.
Welcome to Arrowhead Cleaners. Newly renovated, modernized, and ready to make your cleaning needs hassle-free. From commercial and residential wash and fold laundry services to the latest in professional dry cleaning techniques, we are dedicated to your unique needs, offering alterations, fabrications, and even custom hat making. So whether you're a busy professional, a family on the go, or even a rodeo champion, Arrowhead Cleaners is here to take your things from messed up to dressed up. Now celebrating our 64th year in Arrowhead Plaza.
Home on the Range offers a nurturing place for teens who may have just come from an unsafe or traumatic environment. Here, they receive therapy and education services centered around animals, and the surrounding nature provides opportunities for work, fun, and healing. Life skills learned at Home on the Range are carried with residents when they return to the community with new talents and a greater appreciation for themselves and others.
Are you dealing with arthritis, nerve and back pain, dry skin, or superficial wounds, but found no relief? Give Stewart's Natural Health a try. For over 4 decades, Stewart's Natural Health has been helping people and animals with herbal and natural oil lotions, ointments, and creams with a mission to help you relieve pain and feel your best using the power of nature. Discover the safe, drug-free solution to your pain, guaranteed or your money back. Visit stewartsnatural.health today.
West River Equipment of Mandan is here to help you maintain peak productivity in your operation. As an authorized dealer for many high-quality equipment lines, we have the new and used equipment it takes to make your farming, ranching, or construction operation profitable and efficient. West River Equipment also has the parts on hand and the experienced technicians in our shop to get your equipment back in action fast. Find what you need at West River Equipment on Old Red Trail in Mandan.
Welcome back to Open Range. I'm your host, Gary. I'm talking to Mike Carter and Sue Ann Olson. Sue Ann's from North Dakota State Representative. Mike's Mike's a guy that does a lot with gold and silver talk radio and understands a lot of what's going on in the world economy regarding our finances. We want to start out with a little video that they provided. I think it's kind of interesting. Shows how clueless some of these people are.
Like you said, they print the dollar. So why does the government even borrow?
Well, I mean, again, some of this stuff gets, some of the language that some of the language and concepts are just confusing. I mean, the government definitely prints money, and it definitely lends that money, which is why the government definitely prints money, and then it lends that money by selling bonds. Is that what they do? They sell bonds. Yeah, they sell bonds, right? Because they sell bonds and people buy the bonds and lend them the money. Yeah, so a lot of times, at least to my ear with MMT, the language and the concepts can be kind of unnecessarily confusing, but there is no question that the government prints money and then it uses that money to, yeah, I guess I'm just, I can't really talk, I don't get it. I don't know what they're talking about, like, because it's like the government clearly prints money, it does it all the time, and it clearly borrows, otherwise we wouldn't be having this debt and deficit conversation. So I don't think there's anything confusing there.
So, Joanne and Mike, tell me who this guy is. He should know better, shouldn't he?
Well, he was the guy sitting at the top. I mean, pretty much the chief of the economists for President Biden.
So he's President Biden's chief economist. So, Mike, what can you tell me about this guy? He not only sounds clueless, he sounds like he doesn't even know where he's coming from. He sounds like Biden talking to me.
And the sad part is that the sad part is that was part of a documentary supporting modern monetary theory. And why we should be allowed to print this money and do these things out there. And I think the short answer or conclusion that your audience will have from this is, maybe I shouldn't trust everybody else to do this. I gotta make sure I've got some of my own rainy day funds or things in place there. But when you hear that and you think about other countries hearing that, that's where we said, you know what, they're smelling blood in the water. So China and the central banks around the country, around the world, what are they doing? They're all running to gold. If they're running to gold, that tells me that maybe we as individuals should be thinking about this as well. Now, that's not going to be an easy thing. The BRICS nations have said, hey, we see that the dollar is no longer potentially going to be dominant. I think it is. I think the dollar is a measure of value. The BRICS nations are having a hard time agreeing on who's going to actually be in charge, and do I trust the gold-backed digital yuan, or do I want it to be my country? There's different issues there. But when we talked, when Kevin Freeman was in D.C. And walking and warning about this, about the economic warfare being waged against America, about how we got to be careful how we use the dollar and our reserve currency status. Russia was at the time warning. Igor Panarin is a Russian diplomat who said that America is going to fall. It's going to fail. And I wrote this down. He said that mass immigration, economic decline, moral degradation, collapse of the dollar, and U.S. debt is a pyramid scheme. And he felt that the U.S. was going to break apart, fall apart in kind of a civil war, and that the dollar would no longer be the dominant currency, and that China and Russia would rule. Now, that hasn't happened yet, and they all have their own issues out there. But when you start to look at what he said in terms of mass immigration, economic decline, moral degradation, all those things are happening out there. And this is why it's important that we as individuals kind of say, well, what can I do on my own to make sure that I've got, I'm in a good position, or as good a position as I can financially.
Mike, I always tell a story multiple times on my show that when COVID hit, we were watching TV. I was just sitting with my father-in-law who's 90 and watching Fox News, and Fox came up and said, yep, the government just invested $2.5 trillion into the economy. They're going to get checks to everybody. And he looked at me and he goes, where did that money come from? I said, they just put it in there, just like overdraft. They just put it right in and made it available. About 2 weeks later, it said, we're watching TV again, and it said, the Federal Reserve just put $5 trillion into the economy. And he looked at me and goes, where did that come from? I said, the same place the $2.5 trillion came from. And this whole printing of money where they just kind of create it out of nothing and start spending it, that's the problem, isn't it?
That might be a good time to look at this next
Yeah, let's
Yeah,
go ahead.
yeah.
Let's go. We got a video for that. Then I want you to comment on that, Mike.
Yeah.
Here we go.
Simply flooded the system with money.
Yes, we did.
So to lend to a bank, we simply use the computer to mark up the size of the account that they have with the Fed. So it's much more akin, although not exactly the same, but it's much more akin to printing money than it is to borrowing.
You've been printing money.
Well, effectively.
Where does it come from? Do you just print it?
We print it digitally. So we as a central bank, we have the ability to create money digitally.
Flooding the system with money.
Yes, exactly.
And there's no end to your ability to do that.
There is no end to our ability to do that.
Okay, Mike. I mean, that says it all. I mean, are you kidding me?
Yeah, now, unfortunately, I wish we were kidding ourselves. I mean, I think somebody is trying to fool us. I would love to have one of those money printing machines. And what we're seeing happening in America today is those closest to the money printing are the ones that are capturing the wealth. So if you look at the top half of 1% that have most of the money in the U.S., they're the ones closest to where that money printing is happening. And when they unleash what your father-in-law said, where's that $2.5 trillion going to come from? Where's the $5 trillion going to come from? Well, those at the top of that money printing, they say, oh, this is great. I can take this, I can invest this, I can do these things. By the time it oozes down, they say it's kind of like honey to you and I, that we get the inflated stuff. And so now we saw after COVID, home prices more than doubled typically across America. Did the home prices really double, or did we just lose that much in value on the dollar? The answer is we lost that on the dollar. And so, this is creating that wealth gap that Sue Ann talked about earlier, in that, those of us that are furthest away from that are feeling the pain more and more. And if you don't have hard assets, you're saving up, and what you saved up when they printed $2 trillion or they printed $5 trillion, that just became worth maybe 20% less. And what we're proposing is states to take advantage of those constitutional rights. Article 1, Section 10, that says states can have their own legal tender as long as it's backed by gold and silver. The federal government can't go back on a gold standard. We're too far in debt right now, but you as an individual can, and states can do that by enacting these rights out there. And that's what this is designed to do. Imagine being able to have some money set aside in your rainy day fund, that's your gold account. And as they keep printing that money, you know that gold is at least historically for the last 4,000 or 5,000 years been a stable, steady store of value.
Mike, I've talked to one of my legislative congressmen out in Washington, and his comment to me was, we were having a cup of coffee, and I was talking about the economy and situation. He said, well, every citizen ought to have at least $10,000 stashed in the safe, because we never know what's coming ahead of us. And obviously, if you do that, you better have some gold and silver and some alt denominations next to it, because the dollar that you're referring to just gets totally wiped out. And I know we got a slide coming up showing the value of the dollar, how it's slipped over the years in the last 50 years. Sue Ann, maybe you could speak to it, or Mike.
Yeah, well, when you look at this, we're tracking it from 1971 until 2022 on this chart, but we've effectively lost 90% of our purchasing power. And all of us can relate to the simple example of, what did we pay for a candy bar back in 1970, and what are we paying today? And it's clear to everyone that there was a reason we had dime stores back then, and now we have dollar stores. Like Gary remarked when we were talking offline, you can't find too many things for $1 in a dollar store either. But I mean, it has taken more and more money to buy the same thing. And that's what inflation does. All of us can feel good about, even as we save, put money into our 401k, that kind of thing, and we see our balance growing. But if inflation is growing right alongside of it, we're not getting as far ahead as we had hoped.
So, Mike, when you see the valuation, go ahead. I was going to ask you. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm just going to jump in. Let's talk a little bit about the value of gold and how it holds its value. We have an explainer video at transactionalgold.com. It might be up on there, but it's circulating around in the socials and so forth right now. If my great grandfather wanted to buy me a car in the 1920s, and he's like, hey, I'm going to have great grandkids, and they're going to be great, successful, but I want to help them out. I want to have set some money aside for them to have a car. And he's got a choice between leaving his great grandkids $400, which was the average price of a new car back then, or 4 $20 gold pieces. Gary, which one would you rather have? The $100 bills or the gold pieces?
I'll take the gold pieces because I know what they're worth today. So go ahead.
So that those $400 in bills and paper money, fiat currency, is worth it's worth $400, but that's worth actually 90% less because we've seen the value decline so rapidly, probably more than that. Those $20 gold pieces are worth about $60,000. What's the average price of a new car today? I saw this, it shocked me, but heard on the news the other day, it's about $60,000 before discounts on a new car. So, you know, when you see gold holding value like that, that's where, you know, the aha moment goes on and says, wait a second, I'm still going to do most of my transactions in dollars and units. So I want the dollar to stay strong for forever. I mean, for a long, long time. But I need to be wise for myself. Even Jamie Dimon, Bank of America, they were saying people who have investment portfolios, they've shifted that now. It's about 60% stocks, 20% bonds, and now they're saying 20% gold. So the banks are seeing what's going on. They're buying the gold out there. We want to give individual North Dakotans, Representative Olson with the legislation she'll be sponsoring and moving forward, that same opportunity to be able to own some gold and have something that's a steady store value.
You know, Mike, I want to talk when we come back from the break a little bit about, and we'll for sure in the last segment talk about some of the legislation that's required because there's so many misconceptions that people don't understand it. And they're always throwing things out there to confuse it. And I always wonder about the opponents of this, why they're obsessed with it. So anyway, we come back to break, we're gonna dig on that. So I'm your host, Gary Emmett. We're talking to Mike Carter and Sue Ann Olson. Stay tuned, we'll be right back.
Base Flug Trailers of Dickinson is a family-owned dealer with expert staff that know their products front to back. We stock over 150 units of all types and can custom order a trailer with the unique features and capabilities you require for brands you can trust. Our experienced service team is the reason we're also the best place to have your trailer customized or repaired. Count on Base Flug Trailers of Dickinson to keep you hauling.
Come on in and experience small-town hospitality and the personalized care that makes car buying a pleasure.
We know that every journey starts with the right car. Whether it's school drop-off, weekend road trips, or your daily commute, we have the right vehicle for you and your family.
With trusted brands, affordable prices, and a team that treats you like family, finding your next car has never been so easy.
We pride ourselves on personal attention and quality service. Beset Motors, where our customers send their friends.
Yeah, U.S. Cattlemen is a member organization that each member has a vote in anything we do with policy. We're representing the independent cattleman or the cow-calf guy or an independent feeder or whatever. We like to support the independent producer. We're talking about mandatory ID, we're talking about cool, we're talking about all the legislation that's going to be coming down with the new administration. There's going to be lots of moving and shaking, so always check us out at our website, uscattleman.org.
I'm $27,000 in credit card debt.
Okay.
You have to radically do something different because if you keep doing what you've been doing, you're going to keep getting what you've been getting.
Now's not the time to be doing math. The time to be doing math was when we didn't go into $200,000 of debt.
If you are freaked out and you're stuck in these debt payments and you think it has to be a part of your life, it doesn't.
We are Ladies of Another View. Join us every weekday morning at 9:00 a.m. as we discuss the big topics from North Dakota, the nation, and around the world.
We chat with everyone from celebrities and medical professionals to politicians, local business owners, and neighbors about the topics and stories that affect all of us.
We are unscripted and uncensored real news from real people. So join us every weekday morning for Ladies of Another View on Beth.
Welcome back to Open Range. I'm your host, Gary. I'm going to talking about pirate money and talking about gold and silver and why many of us years ago should have been stockpiling it, which I didn't. And of course, now everybody's telling us I need to go digital. I need to have Bitcoin. I need to have Ethereum, and the list goes on with digital currencies, and there's 20,000, if not more than that today. So, Mike, I need to understand the context of gold and silver, but also at the same time, digital currencies. We have countries wanting to get in the middle of their digital currency. The U.S. is. And so we're looking at what's happened with these central banks and digital currencies, but also talk to us about in the context of that in gold and silver. I'm just trying to figure out how to make sense of all this.
Yeah, if you see one of the real threats out there is central bank digital currency, and if you listen to the World Economic Forum types out there, they want to have digital currencies as a way to control people, as a way to control economies. So, if you can imagine, to say, well, I'm going to put money in your account, and but you can only spend it on these things, or we got to save on emissions, so you can only buy gas within this many miles of your home. That's the dangers of when you start to getting into this digital money, CBDCs. We've heard the Bank of International Settlements, the World Economic Forum, IMF, all talking about how beautiful these central bank digital currencies are going to be. And if we go off this fiscal debt cliff, what they want to do is have this great reset, which will say, don't worry, we're just going to give you some CBDC. That's going to allow you to do some things, and people will grab it and think, oh, this is good, this is great. And then they're going to find out, wait a second, there's some strings attached to this. And I think we have a video, might be beneficial just to understand what they're really talking about and saying out loud as it relates to CBDC, if you can.
Let's take a look at that video.
And the one final note I will make is that if you think about the benefits of digital money, there are huge potential gains. It's not just about digital forms of physical currency. You can have programmability, units of central bank currency with expiry dates. You could have, as I argue in my book, a potentially better and some people might see it, or a darker world where the government decides that units of central bank money can be used to purchase some things, but not other things that it deems less desirable, like, say, ammunition or drugs or pornography or something of the sort. And that is very powerful in terms of the use of a CBDC.
So they want to use that currency to control us. That's what it's all about. At the end of the day, it all sounds good. The problem with it is it's sitting in government and bankers' hands. I don't know. I'm not signing up for that.
No, I don't think any of us do. And the World Economic Forum will go on and say that as this great reset hits, you will own nothing and be happy. You will eat bugs and like it. These aren't things that they hide. You can look anywhere out there and you'll see that. That's their plan. And I'm not going to do that. I'm going to pull out my North Dakotan gold card. And when they say, no, your CBDC is only good for a couple beetles today and something else, I'm like, I'm getting myself a good steak, and here's my North Dakota gold, and I'm going to exchange that card and get what I want.
So, Mike, I want to talk a little bit about it. We have a few slides. I'm not going to get lost on some of the data points just yet, because I want to help us understand how this could work. So I'm just sitting here at home in my ranch up in Tioga, or my farm over by Wilton, North Dakota, and I'm going, okay, I don't get it. I should probably buy some silver. How does that work? And I've done a show recently where there's a gentleman out of Fargo working with Tucker Carlson, and they're going to do help people buy gold, and anyway, all that kind of stuff. We're trying to educate citizens of North Dakota and people around the country about how to use gold and silver, how to buy it, how to deal with it, because there's plenty of North Dakotans sitting with a lot of money in the account, and they're not using it effectively.
Yeah. Let's talk about how this thing really works. So, first of all, I don't sell gold and silver. That's not what we do. We're facilitating legislation. We do have a partner that we found, a vendor out there that's actually implemented a system already called Glint, and it's called Glint Pay, and this is the card, and see it says MasterCard on it, but this is tied to a vault, and as this legislation moves forward in the states out there. You would basically take some of that money you have, you're going to buy gold, and you're going to put it in the state-backed or state-supported vault. And that could be a Brinks vault. It could be each state. Texas has their own bullion depository. Every state's going to do this a little bit differently. But you're essentially buying gold or silver, putting it in the vault, and attaching a debit card to it. And I can go anywhere that takes MasterCard, and I can spend gold and silver with that debit card. The other advantage is I can buy gold at wholesale spot price plus 1%, a little bit less than 1%. So very little markup. I know the gold that I'm buying is trusted because you've got a state controller, somebody making sure it's all got the right custodial relationships, it's all the same quality, the same purity, and so forth. It's typically, each state is a little different, but I think they're all going to be insured by Lloyd's of London or equivalent at 100% at-risk policy. But now I've got a way to go into a grocery store and be able to buy my food with gold if I didn't need to or want to, or gold or silver. I don't think the silver is working on Glint yet, but it will be up and running. But I can go anywhere and spend my gold and silver. Now that would not be practical with a gold coin, because if I go with a gold coin and the gold value is $4,000 and I give that to the clerk, they're going to say, well, I'll give you the face value of this, but I don't know how to make change. I don't know how to do this. Well, because of modern technology, and I think this is the miracle, our founders put it in the Constitution. Now we have the technology to do this, and it's an easy next step. And you might want to roll that video of Kevin, the author of the book Pirate Money, at a grocery store, to showing how easy this thing really is to use.
We just landed in Florida. It's so exciting. We're at my favorite grocery store, Publix, and I brought my gold escudo. This is a gold doubloon. It's got over $100 worth of gold. I'm gonna go see if I can buy some oranges with this. Let's see if it'll take my gold. These delicious Florida oranges. There we go. And where do I put the coin? Oh, I'll just use my Glint card and pay that way. There we are on February 2nd, Publix supermarkets, 3 p.m. I paid $5.99 with 0.0914 grams of gold. Success! Florida oranges, bought with gold, paid by Glint.
So let me get this just to think about the concept here. So gold today, let's just say it's worth $4,000 for easy figure. I take $4,000, put it into, and it's backed with gold. So there's gold sitting somewhere that's physically sitting in a vault that is a $4,000 value. I go out and spend $100 of it using my card. Now I have $3,900 in it. But in the meantime, gold went to $4,500 because I had some extra cash I spent, and so I decided to not use my gold card, that Glint card you're referring to. So your point is that gold went from $4,000 to $4,500. That's all being managed. So now the value that I have on that card is up in value. It's not sitting static like it is if there's dollars sitting in the bank. That's the concept. Of course, it can go down, but it's tied to gold, which has a longer cycle. Is that the premise?
Absolutely. And I think another important thing for your audience to recognize is that gold is never loaned out. It's not like the bank where once you deposit your money, you have a right to use a license to use your money. It's not your money anymore, and that's being loaned out in multiple places. I like to think this is my own rainy day fund. That gold is sitting there. It's the gold that I own. It's not loaned out. And it keeps, as the value of gold keeps going up, if they keep printing money, my gold is going to go up with that printing of money. So my dollar will go down, my gold will go up. And when I spend my gold, I'm spending my gold at the spot price at that time. So what happens when you take this card and you scan it, or you can tap to pay as well, at the grocery store, in less than 200 milliseconds, it says, okay, he's got a bill for $6 here, or $10. Does he have enough gold? Or what's the current spot price of gold? Does he have enough gold at the current spot price to buy this? Yes, he does. It sells my gold at the spot price at that time, converts to dollars, and pays that retailer. Or as Representative Olson leads the legislation in North Dakota, the retailer might decide, you know what, rather than convert the gold to dollars, we might just take that gold electronically into our account and save some transaction fees on it. So they'll have the choice: do they want it gold as legal tender? Do they want to convert it to dollars? That will be up to the retailers to decide, but it's seamless. And I can go to any retailer now. I can go to Walmart, Chick-fil-A, Kroger, anybody that takes MasterCard, and I can spend gold and silver, or I can spend gold, at least right now today, with this. And I can watch it on my app take place, and it's instant. I can watch once they scan my card, I'll see it. I'll see how it sold, how much gold I sold, what it converted to, and it's all visible on the app, so I can see it. Now, if for some reason the grid or something like that were to ever go down, it's always good still to have some physical gold or silver. But you will also, states are looking at ways where you could potentially write checks against that gold in the same way we used to do when we were all writing those checks and had another way to pay.
Well, Mike, I don't want to get, because I think we're going to run out of time to get into the break, but Sue Ann, I'd like to just get the thought, there was legislation last session to deal with paying with gold. And I mean, there are legitimate examples. The poor gentleman down in Publix down in Florida that was trying to spend gold. I mean, it wasn't going to work because the cashier doesn't know. We don't have a process in place. Was that part of the breakdown why legislators opposed it? Do you think we can get legislators in the state to support this kind of concept?
Well, you know, I think there's a bit of a pushback, perhaps from the banking community, thinking that this will somehow, you know, so move over into their banking territory. And yet here we are as North Dakota, the only state that has a state-owned bank. And, you know, my vision would be for our state bank to work closely with our community banks so that, you know, every bank could say, hey, you know, yes, you have your normal accounts, but you may also have your gold account, and have it be you know, facilitated by our state bank, but allowing all the various banks to say, sure, we'll let you operate that way as well. I think that's a little bit down the road. We first have to you know, declare gold and silver as legal tender in our state. And then from there, you know, we can start tagging off of some of the more nuanced kinds of things. But that's where the real beauty will be, is when we can actually make it spendable, make it accessible. Currently, I mean, there are a number of vaults around the country. Brinks has several. Texas, of course, has their state-owned vault. But you know, perhaps someday we'll have a North Dakota vault, although we don't necessarily need to. We could utilize a vault in a different state. But there's, you know, some comfort in knowing that it's located close to us.
We're going to go to the break, Sue Ann, and we come back. I want to get your guys' thought is what state, are there states doing this today, and are we behind the 8 ball, and can North Dakota get on board and get something done with this? So we've been talking to Mike Carter and Sue Ann Olson about pirate money. We're talking about gold and silver and how you can use it to buy and do trade. So I'm your host, Gary. I'm going to stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Hey y'all, it's Trent on the loose. I want to tell you, Lady Blue and I, we got a lot of miles together, but you know what? You and I got a lot of miles together as well. And all I want to do is bring to you the information on how we maintain a domestic supply of food and fuel for future generations. So I'm going to continue to travel the world and unearth the stories that make it possible that we can live in a free United States of America.
Welcome to Arrowhead Cleaners. Newly renovated, modernized, and ready to make your cleaning needs hassle-free. From commercial and residential wash and fold laundry services to the latest in professional dry cleaning techniques, we are dedicated to your unique needs, offering alterations, fabrications, and even custom hat making. So whether you're a busy professional, a family on the go, or even a rodeo champion, Arrowhead Cleaners is here to take your things from messed up to dressed up. Now celebrating our 64th year in Arrowhead Plaza. Are you dealing with arthritis, nerve and back pain, dry skin, or superficial wounds, but found no relief? Give Stewart's Natural Health a try. For over 4 decades, Stewart's Natural Health has been helping people and animals with herbal and natural oil lotions, ointments, and creams with a mission to help you relieve pain and feel your best using the power of nature. Discover the safe, drug-free solution to your pain, guaranteed or your money back. Visit stewartsnatural.health today.
We are the St. Mary Sisters. We are building a new facility here in Bismarck, North Dakota, for the sake of training young women to be courageous teachers in this state. The Sisters will educate the younger generation to be fully alive through truth and discipline. The Sisters' life of devotion and joy will make a positive difference in your community. Check out what we're up to, see what's going on, and join our mission to make a difference in the lives of the children of North Dakota.
Ashley, North Dakota is where life moves a little slower, but never gets dull. From hunting, camping, and fishing to safe streets where kids can be kids, this is the best of small town living. And Ashley offers everything you need, from healthcare to hardware to countless ways to stay active. Here, we've invested in our future with major upgrades to roads, parks, and education. Whether you're here for the day or here for life, you'll find Ashley's where you ought to be.
There's never been a better time to rediscover the style, reliability, and all-season, all-terrain fun of the all-new Nissan lineup at the new and improved Ryan Nissan. Whether it's the sleek and stylish Murano, the adventure-ready Pathfinder, or the reimagined, ready-for-anything 2026 Rogue, the all-new Ryan Nissan has the vehicle of your dreams at a price perfect for any budget. It's time to rediscover your passion for the road. It's time to rediscover the all-new Ryan Nissan, engineered to endure.
Welcome back to Open Range. I'm your host, Gary Emna, talking to Mike Carter and Sue Ann Olson, State Representative from Bismarck. Mike's been involved with gold and silver and investments and consulting all over the country, practically the world for that matter, of how to deal with gold. And I want to just bring up a slide that just talks about how gold has held its value while the dollar has just been deteriorated through all kinds of things from printing of money, et cetera, and just gives you a perspective on the changing cost every day of basic essentials. We're looking at a 20-pound bundle of beef in 1970 is $14. Today we're seeing it's at $3.67 if we look at the top item with silver in 2025. And you see gold. So you see in the middle, you see the gold numbers, and on the left you see silver, but you can see how things have changed over time. And the dollar, how it's deteriorated, and you just have no buying power and how it's been destroyed. If a person would have been sticking gold in your safe back home and using it, and I think it's just a fascinating idea, Mike, that you've talked about, of having this app that can lock me in at a gold price, and if it goes up or down, we know what the dollar's buying power is going to do. It's going to continue to decline rapidly, and so how do we take and put in place that gold? And you started talking about that app, and I just want to get our viewers' mind around it. So I'm sitting in 10 grand at home. I got it in my safe. Well, that's a way to save some money. Well, I mean, for protection. So maybe you need something like that. Maybe you need some gold coins in there, or maybe silver because the domination's smaller. But how do you, in a larger scale, Mike? You started talking about that, but someone's going to go to their bank account and pull out $50,000 or out of some of their savings and want to put gold in. How do if I got it in my safe in my basement, at least I know it's there and I can, let's talk about this vault, just the fear of what could come to someone to say, hey, they're going to get it anyway. So I'm just going to keep it here so I have control of it. Help me understand the liquidity and the safety of that.
Yeah. Well, again, we don't sell gold or silver, but I think it's prudent to be prepared. Look for what's coming ahead is biblical, and be prepared for things that are coming out there. So having some physical gold and silver, we think, is a great idea. But in addition, having something that you can spend as your own rainy day fund. I like to share. I sat next to a gentleman from Zimbabwe about 6 months ago, and he heard about what we were working on in Texas. He lives here in Texas now, and I have a $50 trillion Zimbabwe bill. And he's like, you've got to get this passed in Texas. I was like, I know, I'm working. We were working on it. We have passed it now. He goes, no, you don't understand. He goes, I lived in Zimbabwe, and they said hyperinflation will never happen until it did. He goes, I lost everything, and I sold my truck for 3 loaves of bread because my paper money was, how much more paper can I get to buy something to feed my family? He goes, well, I could have had my rainy day fund. If I could have had one of those gold cards, I could have gone into the grocery store and bought groceries at everyday low prices, not had that be an issue. That's what we're talking about doing here. And this is where we've seen now Texas, Florida, Arkansas, Louisiana, and Missouri have all passed legislation, not just as gold and silver as legal tender, but recognizing the electronic transaction of gold and silver held in a vault of physical gold as legal tender. And what's important about the state being involved now, I have the technology to do this today. As that gold goes up in value and I spend it, there's a capital gains tax on that. We're working to get rid of that. But we have 3 T's that we talk about. Why the work that Representative Olson is doing is so important that North Dakota get involved and move forward with this is first around trust. It makes it very simple for North Dakotans to be able to know the gold they're buying is trusted. It's of certain quality of purity, that they're not going to get ripped off, that it's going to be held in a secure place, that it's insured. It takes all the how do I buy gold? I don't know how to do that questions out of the way. The second one is taxes. And we're having conversations at the federal level that says, hey, now that gold is really transactional, it should not be taxed. You don't tax inflation. President Trump says you don't tax inflation. And even President Biden, when they were looking at CBDC and his executive order, they were looking at that and saying, would this be taxed or would it not be? And they said, no, because it's money and it meets the standards of money, it would not be taxed. A gold coin right now that you have is viewed as a collectible because it's not spendable. And they tax that at a 28% margin. If North Dakota gets behind this, authorizes it, now you've got the potential tax savings benefits. That law needs to be passed, but I'll tell you, we're working that at the federal level right now to get rid of that as that gold goes up in value. And then the third reason is taking. in the 1930s, and this is where, yeah, I want to have some physical stuff with me as well. But what happened? Roosevelt took the gold away from the people. He didn't take it from the states. And if the state is behind this, and we've met with the AGs in Florida and Texas and all that, like there's no way they're going to, if there were ever federal overreach, that we're going to allow that to happen. And so I think this legislation that Sue-Ann is working is so critical to get North Dakota behind it, to take care of the trust, make sure we have the tax issue benefits for North Dakotans there as we move that forward federally, and then making sure that taking never happens again as well. And Brinks is seeing the potential of this. They're converting a lot of their cash vaults now into bullion vaults. So that takes a lot of the cost out of the system if a state wants to do that. Texas is the only one that has their own depository. Every other state is going to use a Brinks or Loomis or somebody like that. But this will be audited. It's going to be audited by the state treasurer. It'll be audited by the insurer. It'll be audited by the vault itself. And you know that's there. And let's talk about hacking and a lot of movement around Bitcoin and all that kind of stuff. Unless you can figure out a way to take gold and melt it down and suck it through the phone lines. If someone were to do a cyber attack on your gold held in the vault, the auditor or the state controller is going to say, wait a second, something's off on our numbers here. Let's go walk down to the vault. And they're going to say, no, at this date, something went off. The gold that moved from this cage moves back over to this cage, but it's a hard asset that's physically there. The challenge you have with a Bitcoin as a currency is it's not a stable store of value. It's digital, it's virtual. People lose their keys, you don't know where it's at, or all of a sudden it's just missing somewhere. This is a hard asset. It's constitutional. It's just another way to pay. The technology exists today. And I think North Dakota, I think there is some opportunities with the state bank there, the only state that has their state bank, to maybe do something unique and interesting that could expand beyond North Dakota and create another unique system. That's a beautiful part about the states. We have 50 states out there. They're each going to do it a little bit different way. But I'm excited to see what North Dakota does with this to make it unique and most of all, to make sure that North Dakotans have an option for fair weights and measure.
Mike, it's one thing North Dakota's got such an opportunity for them because the fact that we got that bank in North Dakota, it's multiple billion-dollar asset. If the legislators could have some vision, so my hat's off to Representative Olson to be thinking about how we can kind of begin to address this, knowing that the first wave is going to be, need to be tweaked again because, it's not been something states have had their own currency using gold and silver as a back end and using it. We understand natural resource. We got a lot of oil here, and the states got a lot of money, and they have resources to be able to put a program in place to support the citizens of North Dakota. But to be honest with it, with the bank that we have, we can do a lot more than just North Dakota.
Well, absolutely, and I think the really important part of this is that for a wealthy person, they can acquire whatever gold and silver they think they need and store it wherever. And that's easy for them. But this kind of legislation lets the average guy on the street be able to participate and protect himself from the vagaries of inflation by buying a quantity of gold or silver that person can afford. And very interestingly enough, at least one state is looking at paying their state employees at the state employees' option in gold rather than dollars.
Interesting. We got a map that brings up some of the states that are doing some things. It'd be interesting to take a look at it just to see what's happening out there across the country. And Mike, maybe you can speak to it. You're probably dealing with some of this on a national level already. Obviously, give us what's going on in this map here.
Yeah, we've been facilitating this for the last 3 years, and to have the success that we've seen out there, I will humbly say it's bigger than us. I believe that this is God's way of money and fair weights and measure, and happy to see the legislation passed. The ones with the stars on that map are the ones that have passed it: legal tender and electronic transaction. Utah is working something interesting. They've as I think in North Dakota, they've taken part of their rainy day fund. Wyoming has now as well, but Utah bought last year up to 10% of the rainy day fund and bought gold, and that's gone up dramatically. And the treasurer there, Marlo Oaks, is another thought leader behind this, very supportive of this idea, and who noticed that when economies go down, gold goes proportionally the opposite direction. So it makes sense for a state to have some of their rainy day fund in gold. And that's proven to be a good payback for them. And that's another solution I think states are looking at. We're seeing at the federal level, even Dr. Judy Sheldon looking at treasuries and backing some of our bonds with gold now because the people aren't buying our treasuries right now. So how do we make that a little sweeter and say, well, we'll give you the higher value of the gold or the interest on that to help people keep people accountable there. But this is a big idea. I think North Dakota, because you meet every other year, you're at an advantage. You can be thinking and working through the details now, but I believe next legislative session, Representative Olson can move forward with the legal tender and the transactional. She knows the politics and what's on there. But I think that North Dakota can be up and running pretty quickly, and you're going to have some other states that are implementing. Florida goes into effect June of this year. Arkansas will be going this year. Texas maybe 27 or maybe towards the end of 26. But there will be best practices where you'll say, okay, here's what we need to do in North Dakota, and here's how we need to move forward with it.
You know, I think North Dakota, Mike, you may not be aware of it, but because we have so much oil, we have this legacy fund, which was a great thing constitutionally we put in place. I think there's probably, I had the state treasurer in about a week ago on the show, and I think we're sitting at about $12 billion in that fund. That's on its way to $20 to $30 billion, and it's meant to be used in the future. And, you know, and I know we discussed investments in it, and we didn't really lock in on gold, but a state like North Dakota that has such massive reserves, we have great opportunity to do something like that. So, Mike, give us just 30 seconds related to how people can find more information on this.
Yeah, you can go to transactionalgold.com, and we have a website of kind of what's going on legislatively. If you're interested in learning more, the book's an easy to read, piratemoneybook.com, and you can get a quick fun to read book on how this actually works. And for those of your audience that are interested, we do a show. We make it free to the public, economicwarroom.com. You can sign up. We do an economic war room battle plan once a week, and it's all free. We care about protecting liberty, security, and values. And if that's of interest to your audience, that might be something you want to follow us as well.
So, Mike, thank you for joining us here on Open Range. We appreciate it. So, Mike Carter with the National Security Investment Institute, who's one of the co-founders. Sue Ann Olson, thank you for joining us. And we're hoping you can get some legislation. We're going to have you back and keep monitoring this.
We will.
I'd have to have Mike back as well. So thank you, Mike, for joining us here on Open Range. I'm your host, Gary Emnett. Thanks for watching.
Come on in and experience small town hospitality and the personalized care that makes car buying a pleasure.
We know that every journey starts with the right car. Whether it's school drop-off, weekend road trips, or your daily commute, we have the right vehicle for you and your family.
With trusted brands, affordable prices, and a team that treats you like family, finding your next car has never been so easy.
We pride ourselves on personal attention and quality service. The Set Motors, where our customers send their friends.
Hey y'all, it's Trent on the loose. Join me on the trip and unearth the stories on how we maintain a domestic supply of food and fuel for future generations of American citizens like our forefathers did.
Welcome to Arrowhead Cleaners. Newly renovated, modernized, and ready to make your cleaning needs hassle-free. From commercial and residential wash and fold laundry services to the latest in professional dry cleaning techniques, we are dedicated to your unique needs, offering alterations, fabrications, and even custom hat making. So whether you're a busy professional, a family on the go, or even a rodeo champion, Arrowhead Cleaners is here to take your things from messed up to dressed up. Now celebrating our 64th year in Arrowhead Plaza.
Hello, friends. This is Culture Crossroads. Join me, Andrew Southwick, and my co-hosts, R.C. Williams and Juliana Ormond, as we tackle the issues shaping America. From politics to pop culture, to faith, freedom, family, and the future. From a faith-based conservative perspective that you won't get anywhere else. We stand at the intersection of faith and freedom. This is Culture Crossroads. Culture Crossroads, Sundays at 5 p.m. Central on BET TV.
We are ladies of another view. Join us every weekday morning at 9 o'clock a.m. as we discuss the big topics from North Dakota, the nation, and around the world.
We chat with everyone from celebrities and medical professionals to politicians, local business owners, and neighbors about the topics and stories that affect all of us.
We are unscripted and uncensored real news from real people. So join us every weekday morning for Ladies of Another View on BET.